Hello. So there was a vaccine debate on Red's Rhetoric's channel today, and I watched some of it, and I just reviewed about an hour of it, and I wanted to talk about a few things. Of course, this was one of your standard non sequitur, or am I pronouncing that correctly, style debates where it's not really a debate, it's a group of people, a gang, if you will, get together who all think the same, dress the same, act the same, and then they find someone who has opposing ideas to them, and then they all gang up because they're not secure by themselves as individuals going heads up versus someone. They didn't know they needed to. They had I think in this particular debate, there was Jared, Reds, Fight the Flat Earth, Bob the Science Guy. I think I'm missing. Oh, Micro. There's 5 people off the top of my head. There could have been even more. I didn't listen to the whole thing, so who knows? It was at least 5 on 1. Maybe that's it. So that's fair. Uh, I thought this anti-vaxxer guy did a pretty good job, and I was glad to see him quoting Bertrand Russell. So that was good. It's really hard when it is really hard to do this when you got a gang of people who all agree and all just they're laughing at him and comparing him to a flat earther and making crude jokes the whole time. It's pretty hard. And this guy held his composure really well. He didn't get angry. I thought he did a really good job considering this, the circumstance. I think he won the argument. So anyways, I wanted to go over a few points, and I guess we'll get into it now. Here we go. So we'll start with this clip here.
So I'm interested in you give me what you think is the best of those studies then.
I'm not. I don't have one. I haven't. Like I told Reds, I wanted to be able to prepare for this really, so I can do things like that. But since I wasn't able to prepare and was right off the bat, I'm somebody who deals with lots of different topics. As you know, I'm talking about population control by ruling oligarchy. So I don't have everything, and I'm not the most organized human being on the planet right now.
So I would say that's a pretty fair statement, and throughout this entire debate, I noticed another time when Bob the Science Guy, I guess he wasn't present to hear this, but people were kind of jumping all over him for not being prepared for this debate. And I don't think that's very fair because he stated right there, he asked for time to prepare, and Reds wanted to do the debate today, which, understand whatever. You should be more understandable that the guy doesn't have all these statistics and data ready to answer all these questions for the debate, because you really do need time to prepare. And I just think it was really unfair. Also, I think a lot of times during this debate, I noticed Bob the Science Guy doing this. If you're in a debate and you say I don't know, it looks bad to the audience and it makes it look like you're losing the debate, although that really shouldn't be the case. Because, no one could be reasonably expected to just memorize and regurgitate data and statistics and facts off the top of their head. Maybe if they're given time to prepare, which in this case he wasn't, but he kept getting crap for this, and it looks bad to the audience when you say I don't know in one of these things. So that's a tactic that people will always do, is they just will ask you a series of questions until they get this gotcha where you don't know. And then if you say I don't know, then you look bad to the audience. That's basically what they're trying to do. It's just a cheap trick, and it's not a good argument for your claim to just get the other side of the argument to admit they don't know some random fact. It's really, this childish, immature, it's like a school ground tactic to win a schoolyard debate. Let's keep going here.
You seem to be very passionate about this subject. Here's the thing. I'm very passionate about it, and I don't need any time to prepare. I can own a flat earther instantly. You know, there's this little thing that I do where I have a challenge for flat earther. Stump me for 10 seconds, and you win $1,000. You want to know why no one won it? So if you are as passionate about this anti-vax bullshit as I am with flat Earth, you should be instantly able to defeat microbloggism with a simple question. What study?
So, you know, Reds likes to talk about logical fallacies, right? Well, I feel like he committed a logical fallacy right there. I think that's a terrible argument. He's saying, well, if I debate a flat earther, I don't need to prepare. You shouldn't need to prepare either. Is that really a fair? I think that would be a false equivalency logical fallacy, I believe. I could be wrong. I'm not an expert on debate and logic and reason and all this stuff. I'm just kind of new to this, but it seems to me like it's not a fair comparison. I don't know this Charles guy, you know, but as he stated, he covers many topics, so it's pretty hard if you're covering many topics, he's saying he's not an expert in any particular thing, you know. It's hard to know these topics in and out. And Red's Rhetoric he's a professional flat earth debunker. He makes a living arguing flat earth. You know, it's like Michael Jordan won the NBA championship 6 times. Why can't you? I just think Reds is probably stronger at the topic of flat earth than this guy is at vaccines. So it's just like it's not an equivalent. Like, oh, I can do it. Why can't you? I think it's just a horrible argument. And it's pretty pathetic that he likes to point out other people's logical fallacies, but has no problem making his own. I'd say he's a hypocrite. But, you know, I guess we all are hypocrites, so. Let's see, what else do we got here? Boom. What does this say? Okay, let's play this.
Smallpox reason?
Again, special pleading. I'm going to have to call you out on this fallacy that you keep doing. Special pleading like a motherfucker. Basically, whenever we have links and papers, peer-reviewed articles that show that what you're saying is absolute horseshit, you immediately dismiss it. But then you come back and say, oh, this guy, Royal Decidee, who had a interbreeding threesome with Darwin's great ancestor, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and believe that guy. But all of these other peer...
Okay, so you hear Reds there go, oh, this Darwin society, blah, 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 interbreeding. So what he's talking about is this quote the guy brought up of Bertrand Russell, which, you know, I like to hear this sort of thing, but they don't address it. They just dismiss it as, oh, it's some Darwin interbred. They never address this quote where Bertrand Russell, he says, granted he's talking about a hypothetical futuristic scientific dictatorship society, but I believe, you know, that we are in that society, and a lot of you know, credible people would support that belief. So it's not a conspiracy theory. And you know, here he has this quote: diet, injections, which would be vaccines. I argued this with Curved Water from the Gem Panda, you know, Nazi Germany Discord server. He tried to argue with me that when Bertrand Russell says injections, he's not talking about vaccines. That's what Curved Water says. But these, you know, Red's Rhetoric doesn't even want to address this. He just wants to dismiss it as like Darwin's cousin or whatever. He just makes a joke about it. But yeah, diet, injections, and injunctions will combine from a very early age to produce the sort of character and the sort of beliefs that the authorities consider desirable. And any serious criticism of the powers that be will become psychologically impossible. And that's Bertrand Russell, Impact of Science on Society, page 50, 1953. And I think the 5 people who were debating against this anti-vaxxer are evidence that the vaccines have made it psychologically impossible for them to criticize the powers that be. They can't see, they literally think Santa Claus is running all these corporations, and all the CEOs of these corporations are like Santa Claus, and they just want to give them presents and entertainment and love them. They really believe this stuff. So also they made fun of the inbreeding, which is, you know, a thing that the wealthy and the elite do. And here in Bertrand Russell, Impact of Science on Society, you know, they made light of this, but Bertrand Russell addresses it, you know, and he's a credible academic type, way more credible than any of those clowns, saying gradually by selective breeding, the congenital differences between rulers and ruled will increase until they become almost different species. A revolt of the plebs would become as unthinkable as an organized insurrection of sheep against the practice of eating mutton. So clearly another example that these people debating this anti-vaxxer are like sheep, and revolting against the vaccines is just unthinkable to them. They're horrified. Another thing Red's rhetoric was saying here was he accuses the anti-vaxxer. His name's Charles, I believe. I don't really know him. I'm not familiar. I should probably check out. I think he shouted out his Facebook group. Maybe I should go join it. So he was accused of special pleading because Charles wouldn't accept the studies and evidences from their side, you know. But the thing is, I think that's hypocritical, because Charles brought studies and evidence to support his side and his claims, and those were all dismissed. So both parties were guilty of dismissing each other's claims or studies and evidence, but Reds accuses him of special pleading, which Reds would be guilty of too, because he's really doing the same thing, right? And to help Charles out, I went and found an article here from the National Vaccine Information Center. Your health, your family, your choice. So this would be I would think, a credible source. And this is a little YouTube video here of vaccines, doctors, judges, and juries hanging their own. So in this article, it talks about some people linking a bowel disease to MMR vaccine, and that basically scientists or doctors who tried to study, you know, possible links to vaccines and autism, or vaccines and anything sort of negative, it seems like we're threatened with losing their careers. So that calls into question, you know, like how do we know what data and studies can we trust when there's political agendas, when there's a pharmaceutical company set to make billions of dollars over vaccines? Can we really trust these studies? You know, some people might use their brain and think that there's special interests here that might manipulate information we're receiving, you know, and then others might just blindly accept what the rich people tell them to think.
Research, and also the basic facts of the matter whenever we show it to you. I showed you a paper that showed a list of 1 point whatever million people getting this vaccine, and guess what? No autism, no link was found whatsoever. The only link that is found is from a guy who is no longer allowed to practice medicine.
Oh, thank you for backing up my point about people who do studies that go against what the consensus scientific dogmatic community says, that is backed up by, you know, pharmaceutical conglomerates. You know, just go up against them and you'll lose. He's not allowed to practice medicine anymore. Just like my article was talking about. Oh, thanks for making my argument for me, Reds. I agree. Okay, so what else do I have here? Oh, basically here, yeah, they're kind of arguing about, is it safer? So some people do get sick from vaccines. They talk about vaccine court, where the companies have paid out billions of dollars to families that have been hurt by vaccines, and they dismiss that Okay, that doesn't matter to them, right? And so they get to this argument about, oh, what's safe? You know, more people die from not wearing a seatbelt than from vaccine. I don't know. They get to a debate, but basically these people think that it doesn't matter if some people get hurt from vaccines and die or get all these really negative side effects that totally damage their lives, you know. That's collateral damage to them. They don't care because they think the overall greater good is that vaccines are saving lives and that we'd all be dead if it weren't for vaccines. So this is kind of an interesting.
Well, neither can you, because apparently the observation that these vaccines that are being given are actually helping people, but you dismiss every paper that's given to you.
Okay, well, the good thing is everything that I said here, you guys can look up, and it might open your eyes. Most likely not, but
I did look it up, and I have come to the correct conclusion that you're full of shit.
What I want you to focus on going forward is finding the victims of this stuff and seeing their story, watching their tears, and empathizing rather than being a cold-blooded scientific fuck.
I thought that was pretty well said by Charles. And we could end this stream with one of the stories of the victims of vaccines that, you know, these cold-hearted scientific fucks, they don't care about these victims because vaccines save lives, but there's no evidence that vaccines save lives. So let's go.
And it says the British Medical Journal's published a case.
Shit.
And it says the British Medical Journal's published a case report of a healthy 16-year-old Australian girl whose womanhood appears to have been stolen by Gardasil vaccinations. She's been thrust into full-fledged menopause. 16-year-old. Her ovaries irrevocably shut down before becoming a woman. Well, that goes along with sterilization and no more children. You wonder why the guys are all becoming sterile too? That's all coincidence as they keep pushing more injections and vaccinations. Of course, they don't. Folk can't get their head across. You know, they can't even see the minefield. They have to jump over the minefield to start to see what's really going on. Because then, when you really understand it, what are you going to do in life? Are you going to oppose it? See, it gives you, when your understanding gives you, it gives you something you have to do then. If you really understand it, what you're going to do, you have to do something. You have to say something, be involved in something to stop all this. And most folk don't want that. They've been tamed. Mind you, they've had this needle too, so they're dumbed down and happy, like Bertrand Russell said. When you really understand it, what are you going to do?